Well, Coach, we're a little bit over a week into camp. What are some of the things you liked so far?
I think everybody's come in with a really good attitude, and we've had our ups and downs throughout the course of training camp, but it's been good to see us battle through the adversity. And if we have a bad day or the defense gets us on one day, we've been able to string plays together and really respond like a good offense has to respond. And the young guys are coming along, the older guys feel more and more confident, and they're able to play a little bit faster, and it's been good to watch them grow throughout the course of the week.
Coach said that at the scrimmage, he said the quarterbacks look good in general, but he said that Frank kind of took a step, and but he was quick to say that it's premature, still too early, but that he took the step, but the rest of the guys did too. But he spoke Frank's praises. So what is he? Since he's from here, there's a lot of interest in, not to say there's not interest in the other guys, but what does he bring to the table? The proverbial.
Well, I think in you guys on the media will notice, and people will see on social media, and the big thing is he's got a likable personality, and he's bubbly, he's fun, he smiles a lot, and I think that's why people are attracted to him, and that's what he does a really good job of. And the thing that's been good to witness is all those guys in that room have really bonded together, and they're all learning from each other, and they're all posing questions based on what one guy does throughout the course of practice, or even today in the scrimmage. Okay, what if this scenario comes up? What do we do? All right, is this what you want us to do? And it's been really, really good to see them continue to mature and continue to grow.
What are some of the things he did today that that kind of that prompted coach to say,
right,
he took a step today? What are some of the things that you saw?
Well, in those guys today, they operated within the offense, and it was one where they were trying to stay within the scheme, and they were making sure that they were going to take the first open guy, and that's what we did a really good job of. Our skill players on the perimeter were able to get open, and we didn't sit there and wait for a guy to get open, and we played within the rhythm of the play, and it was good to see them actually operate efficiently as quarterbacks.
If Coach says there's a little bit of a gap between him and the rest of the group based on today, how big is that gap at this time?
It's really not that big, but he did a really good job today, and it was good to see all four of those guys led their units to touchdowns, and all four of them threw touchdown passes. So that was good to see throughout the course of today's scrimmage, and really seeing a lot of those young guys on the perimeter make plays. And we had some guys up front who did a really good job. The offensive line is really starting to gel, and they're starting to play well together. And it's exciting to see it all kind of piece together. I'm in a position where I got to make sure everything fits, and that's been fun because you've got some pieces that you can move around, and you can make sure that they gel together and it matches, and that way we've got punches and counter punches is what we're trying to do.
How does your offense and the way you call it look different with Frank at quarterback versus a guy like JoJo, for instance?
A lot of it is just trying to get the ball to playmakers' hands, and the plays may change a little bit, but really it's moving people and getting matchups, because regardless of whether or not they're playing zone, regardless of whether or not they're playing man, you got to get your best guy an opportunity against their lesser guys in space. And if we can do that consistently and those guys can make plays, we're going to be successful.
Is there an advantage to being able to solidify the quarterback situation earlier, just so you can start to hone in on kind of what works and what doesn't and get more chemistry within that?
Yeah. The big thing every single guy is concerned with is improving every single day. And maybe there's a little bit of comfort if those guys know. But, the big thing is they got to do their job. And that's the most important thing, and we make sure that we hold each and every guy on the team accountable for what is their job. And we every week, got it from one of the previous coordinators that I worked with. Every week, every day, we do a who we are and a who we're not tape. So we put a couple clips of what is not acceptable, and then we put more clips of what is acceptable behavior for the members of the team. Because we talk about, the expectation as we go in on Saturdays when the fans show up, the expectations for the position. If I'm the quarterback or if I'm the left tackle, they expect him to play a certain way regardless of who I am. And that's the big thing, is making sure that we get everybody to execute at a high level and a high manner.
Jeff, you mentioned the offensive line. Are we going to see an improved run game this season? I know that does so much for the passing game and getting guys in space. You think we'll be better this season?
Yes, I think we'll be better, and I think that those guys are playing with more confidence up front. And the big thing, and you mentioned it, you look at the teams that are successful in the National Football League and across the country in the NCAA. You've got to be able to run the football, because when you can run the football, all of a sudden you create one-on-one matchups in the back end. You're not allowed. They can't just sit back and play 3 defenders over 2 of our offensive guys like they do in zone football. They have to start bringing pressure. They got to start playing man-to-man. And when they do, we talk about it. If they're going to bring the blitz, somebody's band's going to play, and we got to make sure that it's our band playing in the end.
This is your first year as coordinator here, but you do have coordinator experience in your past. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah. Can you talk about your time? I think it was at LSU at the beginning of one season where you were pretty hands-on with the offense while the OC was, I guess, in the hospital.
Right. No, I've had a couple of experiences in a coordinating role. The most recent was 2015. I was very fortunate to be in a position where Cam Cameron was sick, and they trusted me enough, and nobody really wanted to step on Cam's toes, because they didn't want him to feel like they were going to try to take his job over. And I remember it was Steve Ensminger, the current coordinator at LSU now. We go out to walkthrough, and I'm sitting there. I got the script in my hand, and I'm looking at him, and he goes, "You're the coordinator. You run it." And so we just went from there. And Cam was still heavily involved, but we FaceTimed him into meetings while he was away, and just kind of we had to go, because regardless of what happens, and it's no different here, regardless of what happens from now until August 31st, the game is still going to be played on August 31st. It doesn't matter if I'm in the chair, if anybody else is in the chair, we're still going to have the game on August 31st. So that was really good, because it was different, and I really had an appreciation for how the whole puzzle needs to fit together. My first experience was when I was at Ashland, a Division II school, working for a guy named Lee Owens, who was great in the sense that he taught me you have to have a system and a series within everything that you do. Because if they're trying to take away one thing in a particular formation, they can't take away something else. And he really forced me to kind of learn to build not just one particular play, but multiple plays back to back that have to fit within those parameters, so you can kind of be one step ahead of the defense.
You planning to be in the booth this season? Is that
I've gone back and forth. For the North Texas game, I was down on the ground. I kind of like being around the guys. But that's still up in the air, and that'll be determined here in the next 2 weeks, where we fit best as a staff, and what our strengths are as a staff. With Daryl Funk as the O-line guy, your O-line guy is going to be on the ground. With Coach Ball and his expertise, being a veteran wide receiver coach, he's going to be down. Whether or not you put Coach Vitsa or myself or Coach Johnson down, that's to be determined. So whatever it is, we'll try and make the most of our collective strengths so we can operate at our highest level.
How many quarterbacks do you want to travel? What's optimal for you?
A lot of those decisions are based on, unfortunately, it's based on what's the greatest need. I was fortunate. I was a walk-on quarterback at the University of Michigan in 2002. I found a role in 2003 where I became the guy who knew all the signals, and I could hold for a left-footed kicker who was our backup kicker. And so I remember to this day, leading into, I think it was game 2, we were about to play Oregon in 2003, and all of a sudden coach is preparing me to travel, and it was a tremendous experience. We traveled 4 quarterbacks, and I went mostly because of a need on special teams, and that'll be the case here. It's if we need to travel an extra body on special teams, we're going to travel it on special teams. But if we've got the flexibility to take one as a quarterback, then we'll do it. And it all ultimately comes down to how well those guys perform to warrant whether or not you need to travel them.
Can you talk just about the challenge that you're taking on? I mean, I know stats are stats and everything else, but last year, the dead last, I guess, total offense and most of the offensive categories. Could you have taken on a bigger challenge, you think, than the one that you stepped in? And tell me about how you've embraced it, and tell you how you take it every, day by day, and also, do you see in these guys, I know they're all competitors, goes without saying,
Right.
but an earnestness, for lack of a better word, where they come back and really kind of,
Oh, I think
they
everybody.
want to tone, they want to make,
Right.
they're proud, they
Yeah.
know that last year wasn't a good year.
Everybody on offense and everybody on this team has a tremendous amount of pride. If you don't have pride in yourself, there's no reason to go out there and compete. And one of my first meeting with the offensive unit was to put it out there in black and white and show them exactly where we were. And if you don't at least acknowledge where you were, you can't make any changes and you can't go somewhere else. And I told them, where we are right now is not where we're going to end up. And it's our job to put you in position to make those plays. And then when we put you in position to make those plays, you got to go make them.
Yeah.
And so that's where we've had a heightened sense of urgency as a unit, which has been good. And we talk about it. The first rep's the most important rep, which is cliche, but the other fact of the matter is, there are no do-overs. We don't get to play UIW. We don't get to play them again the very next week if we don't play exactly how we need to play.
And you
on
only get so many
August 21st.
possessions a game, too,
Right.
right? So obviously you can't waste.
Right.
Just to get back to Frank, just briefly again, Frank Harris. I know he's a likable guy. He's got that personality. He's charismatic. Let's face it. But can you talk about just from a football standpoint of the presence that he has? When he steps in that huddle and the
Yeah.
respect that he gets from his, because smiling and all that kind of stuff is not gonna. You got to be able, obviously, not even.
Right.
Can you talk about that? Just the presence that he's got.
Yeah, no, and I think the big thing that you got to do as a quarterback, regardless of who it is you've got to make plays. And when guys get open, you've got to give them the ball. If not, you're going to lose the trust of your team. And that's one thing. Doesn't matter who it is. And that's where these guys, as the group, have done a better job in the fall, even in comparison to the spring, is giving guys a chance to go make plays when they've won their one-on-one matchup.
Right.
And so that's where we've taken steps and need to continue to improve as we get ready for game one.
And Frank has that presence. I mean, he has that. That presence. I know you don't want to be prejudiced with one guy or the other. I know you got to worry about all of them, and I respect
Right.
that.
No.
But doggone, I want to talk about Frank Harris.
Yeah.
But what just the presence that he's got in the huddle and stuff.
Yeah. He knows what he's doing, and that's been really, really good. So he's helped out in that regard, and guys trust that he knows what he's going to do.
Is it an advantage because you've been a quarterback? You know what these guys are going through. How big of an advantage is that for grooming them for this position? Because this is a grind. I mean,
Right. No, I think, I was fortunate. I've had tremendous mentors, not only as a player but as a coach. You go back to my high school head coach, Mike Carr, who helped get me ready to go to the University of Michigan, and then playing for Scott Leffler, who's now the head coach at Bowling Green. He did a really good job of teaching us the game and advancing my knowledge. And then you add in Coach Lloyd Carr, and I mentioned the story about when I was playing as a quarterback at Michigan. As a walk-in, he didn't get a whole lot of reps. But when he did get reps, and Coach even mentioned this, his job was to create the most pressure environment that he could possibly create. Because you talk about when you're out there, everybody's looking at you as the quarterback, and everybody expects you to perform. And so he tried to make things as difficult as possible, just so when the time did come, it wouldn't be any different. And so those two helped mold me. And then, I worked when I was at Central Michigan. Butch Jones was the head coach there, and that was very beneficial. And then Mike Bajakian, now the offensive coordinator at Boston College, was our offensive coordinator. And you learn so much from guys like that. And then I come to LSU, and I'm working with Cam Cameron, a guy who's been a college head coach and NFL head coach. And, I've been very, very fortunate along the way to learn from a lot of great head coaches. I mean, I can say I played or coached for 3 different guys who won a national title.
Yeah.
And you talk about with Les Miles, Gene Chizik, and Lloyd Carr. I mean, not a whole lot of people can say that. So you learn how to do things in the right way, and you learn that there's a way to do things, and everything kind of leads into one another. You take care of the little things off the field, and more than likely you're going to have success once you get onto it, because it just becomes a way of life.
Okay.
Within a game, what role does Coach Wilson take in calling the offense?
Coach has a keen eye for helping to understand when we need to go attack. you know, he can understand exactly when guys are starting to jump, when we have great matchups in terms of people on the perimeter. So he's able to offer suggestions like, this is a guy that we need to go after. Up until that, it's, you know, it's partially my job to figure out, okay, here's how he wants to do it, all right? This is exactly what we're going to do in order to get that done.
And from a philosophical perspective, are you the type of guy who says we need to have one quarterback, or are you open to potentially playing more than one or rotating?
Yeah, I think really the situation's gonna evolve, and to be honest, I mean, I'm not opposed to playing multiple guys on one snap. I mean, I don't want to open. My whole thing is I want to be open to anything, and if we can create an advantage for us to score points, which is the ultimate goal, then we need to investigate it, and we need to do it. So whether it's one, whether it's two, whether it's 2-on-1 play, I'm not closed to anything.
What are the biggest things you want to change about the offense taking the reins full time from last year to this year?
I want to score points. That's the biggest thing I want to do. I want to score points. And that's our job, is we need to uphold our end of the bargain. We need to go attack the defenses. We need to keep our defense off the field. But we got to go score, ultimately. You know, you talk about the stats. You mentioned the stats earlier. For an offense, there's only really truly one stat that matters, and that's scoring offense. Same thing for defense. There's only truly one stat that matters. You can give up a ton of yards as a defense. If you don't give up any points, guess what? You got a better chance to win. All right? If you're getting the ball in good field position from special teams and you score a lot of points and you win, who cares if you don't have a bunch of yards? But you gotta score points. That's a big thing.
Is the offense going to look substantially different from a perspective of what you guys call or how you run it, or is it going to be a lot of carryover from last year?
There's gonna be some differences, but I think there's a lot of carryover, which helps our guys, so that way they can play fast. You know, certain things are gonna be different. You know, Coach Borges and I are just slightly different in a lot of ways, and in some ways we're very similar. But you know, the fact of the matter is we both value being able to run the football, and we both value being able to put the ball in the end zone.
Jeff, the opportunity last year to jump in and call plays, was it the last game of the season or the season before, or the game before? And then what do you take away from that opportunity this season?
No, it was awesome having Coach Borges up in the box and seeing his perspective as I called the last game. And you know, you couldn't have asked for a better help going into my first experience as a Division I play caller. And you know, that experience was great because it was like, you know what, I'd always kind of thought you need to go out and you need to be aggressive and you need to attack and you need to take shots and you need to take the fight to the defense. And at that point, it was like, you know what, it's exactly what we're going to do. And so that was good. And at that point, that was our best way to win, and we felt like that was going to give us an advantage.
So it was just the one last game, or was it the final two?
Okay. Yeah, it was the last game.
Now being the offensive coordinator full-time, how is your voice and your attitude in practice different from last year to this year?
Well, before I was solely focused on coaching my guys, getting the wide receivers as good as they could possibly be. And now you've got to take a collective hold of the unit as we get going. And so, you know, before we take the field, it's bringing the group up and making sure that everybody is ready to go and having that sense of when guys need to be prodded, having that sense of when guys need to be loved, and really focusing in and feeling more of the big picture as opposed to just focusing in on doing my job with the wideouts.
That player relationship aspect has been talked about a lot by the guys. How did you go about building that, and how much of a priority is that for you to relate to them in that way personally?
Well, I think, you know, one of the benefits is the vast majority of the roster, I've been here when they were recruited. You know, you think about only a few guys, truly the fifth-year seniors are guys that were here when we first got here. So being involved in the recruitment process helps to build that relationship because you've gotten to know a lot of their families, whether they came on trips or whether you went into their homes. That helps. And then, you know, being around, understanding exactly what problems guys have had in the past, all right, what has gone on in their personal life. It allows you to relate to them and allows you to truly get a feel for what kind of people they are.
Cool. Thank you.
Awesome.
Just